Next up is going to be a beaded Christmas tree. And I'm going to need a few layers and a few pieces. I'm going to need a triangle of green. I'm going to need a protected background, which I'm actually going to cut a base that's the same size. And then I need a little tree trunk. I received a Taurus saw for my birthday this year. And so this one, once I get all the pieces cut out, I'm going to cut notches to make it more branch-like, and then I'm going to wrap it with wire and beads. First step though, get a bunch of green triangles, a bunch of little trunks, and a bunch of bases that are cut to the same size. I'm reading my scrap bin again, so I can get two out of that color, and then one out of aventurine green, which I absolutely love. So that'll work out just fine. Now I'm going to take these over to the Taurus saw, which is going to make a whole lot of racket, so I won't film that, and I'll be back when they're cut. Okay, I have my little shapes cut. And now I have to go back and take both clear bottom and green top and put notches in them. So I will be back again. And I ran these through, or I cut them freehand. And I put notches deep enough so that I can wrap the wire. Oh, that one is not correct. Either I mixed them up or I totally messed that one up. These two are good. This one may not work, and I may have to recut that clear base. Oh, it's fine. It's a little bit lower than it should be. I think it will be fine. So next step, dry them off, glue them all together, run them at a tack fuse. And then when they come out of the kiln, I will wrap them with wire and beads. I'm going to put the hooks in these now because I want it in there for when I'm wrapping the wire and the beads around. I have something to anchor. I'm going to use the nichrome wire instead of pre-made hooks, and I'll need about 1 inch. Remember, cut with the flat part toward what you're going to use. I want these to be a little bit different, so I'm not going to go to the end. I'm actually going to go in a little bit, bend them both back firmly, and then go in and straighten them out. So I'm going to have a pin with little straight legs, but it's going to be bigger, and one leg is going to be longer than the other. I'm going to anchor. I'm going to make my loop to anchor, and then reinsert the plier, bend it to straight. I want a little bit more substantial hook because I think this is going to be a little bit heavier, 2 layers. But I still need to maintain that narrow neck because it is coming to a point. So I'm going to assemble them, glue them together. This one needs to get a little more rubbing alcohol, which will dissolve Sharpie. Because I cut them freehand, I have to be careful that I line them up the proper way. I should have drawn marks to determine where I was going to cut, but it was quicker not to, so I didn't. So I'll just slide my hook in there. base in place. And let these dry thoroughly so things don't slide around before I fire them. They are in the kiln and ready to be fired, but they have to wait their turn because I have the other kiln running right now. They are still too hot to work with, but they look good. Now that they're cool, I'm going to wrap them with wire and beads. I dug into my old jewelry making kit and I had silver or copper. Silver is much easier to work with. The copper looks better with the trees. So I think this one I did in silver. I think the next one I'll do with copper. I am putting beads on it. The beads are 3mm tapered Swarovski crystals. I also had 5mm. They just were too big. It didn't look good. Okay, to start out, you're going to take your round nose pliers and you're going to make 2 loops or a double loop at the end of the wire because we want it to be a little more secure. This is not going to be embedded in the ornament. It's going to be wrapped around it. Once you've done your 2, you're going to pull back. So you've got a double loop on a pin. Bend it a little bit of an angle. Hold it with your thumb at the base of the tree where the trunk is. And without kinking your wire, you're going to run your wire through once. And then you're going to run it through around the trunk and through the loop again. So it'll be anchored and look very neat. And my apologies for the kiln. The clicking is driving me crazy, so I would imagine it's not fun to listen to the video with that clicking. And then you're going to flatten it down. So tighten it, flatten it, and it gives you a nice finished. With your thumb, you're then going to continue in the same direction that you were going and bring it up through the first notch to the front of the tree. So you have a really nicely finished join where the trunk and the tree come together. And then you're going to string the bicone beads, go directly across at an angle up, string more beads directly across at an angle up. So you don't have to watch me string beads. I put a bunch on the wire. So you're going to go from where you attached, first notch, pull it straight across, and then you're going to either string the beads or decide how many you want if you strung a bunch ahead of time. Pull the wire back into the notch. You're going to go diagonally across the back, and it's much harder if you've strung the beads ahead of time because they want to get in your way. Just going to pull it nice and snug into the notch. Decide how many beads you want or string the beads. Sometimes, depending on the size of the bead and what the look you want, you can fill it all the way up, or you can leave a little bit of wire exposed. You're going to pull it back, go diagonally up, back to the front, and work your way all the way up to the top. When you get to the end, you bring it up to the hanging loop. And what I like to do is go through, now you have to be careful you don't kink your wire, and then just go back through enough times to cover the entire hanger with the copper wire. If you don't want to, you can just do 2 loops, clip it off close, and call it done. Which is what I did with the first one. I just did a few loops and left it. But I think I would like the look better if the nichrome wire was completely covered. Totally unnecessary. And I don't think you'll notice it when it's hanging on the tree. So in order to wrap the whole thing, you just keep going through the loop, pull it tight, keep everything nice and straight. If your loops start to get a little bit of space between them, you can just push it with your thumbnail to get them back in shape. It takes a lot more wire, a lot more time, but I think it looks so much nicer. So I do think it's worth it. See, this one, I only did a little bit. This one I went all the way around. If you're not going to go all the way around, I think you're better off to do 2 tiny little loops and clip it